I can count on probably just one hand the number of leaders that I've met that I am just kind of awed by. And today I'm joined by one of them. Today I'm here with Albana. Albana, why don't you do us a favor and introduce yourself?
Thank you so much for that introduction, Alex. I've known Alex, more than 10 years
Mm-hmm.
now, when we worked together at NYU
Mm-hmm.
Langone. Those were some fun times, at least in my memory. Um, so, how do I talk about myself? This is always a hard
Mm-hmm.
question, right? Because you want to start from the beginning. You want to start, with your upbringing and what brought you to the person that you are here
Mm-hmm.
today. And I'm Albana. I was born in Albania, and I left my country when I was 17 years old. My parents made a sacrifice, and they really believed in my ability to build and bridge my own path. So I left my country. I came to the United States as an exchange student. I went to Kentucky initially. That's where I went to high school. I completed my last year of high school. I know everyone wonders why Kentucky. Actually, I was very lucky to have met an American family in Kentucky who housed me and gave me a really warm welcome to the American life and an introduction to what America is all about. So I was incredibly fortunate to have lived with this amazing family. They had two younger children of their own, and I got to learn English really well through speaking to the little younger kids. I finished my last year of high school, and being a very type A type of person, I graduated valedictorian in Bullis Central High School, and I even got to give a valedictorian speech, which was pretty amazing experience given that I was an international student. I didn't speak English when I arrived or barely spoke English. And when I finished my high school, I graduated. I felt really comfortable being in front of 3,000 people, 400 of my peers. And the message that I was giving it was a message of gratitude. I felt really fortunate to have live in a country that provides opportunities for the things that we want to do. It provides the freedoms that I didn't have in my country, provides the opportunities and the leadership opportunities that as a woman I probably wouldn't have had that opportunity if I had stayed back. So it was a message that came from the heart. It was a message full of gratitude, and I really meant it. And I wanted, everyone who was there to understand that they had so much in their own country, but the thing is not to take it for granted and to make the best of it. So I left Kentucky. I came to New York because I had family in New York, and it was a lot easier for me to navigate life and school. And again, this being fortunate, kind of continued with me. Um, I got a full scholarship at St. Francis College. I graduated debt free, which is a big deal being a student in this country. I graduated with a degree in information technology, but when I graduated, it was very difficult as a woman to find a job in IT. This was the beginning of when women started doing more and more of these degrees in computer science, in information technology, but I found it to be very challenging to land a job in IT. And so my first job was as a bank teller at Ridgewood Savings Bank. I met someone through a school networking event, and I got a job as a bank teller. And for the next 5 years, I really worked really hard to move up the ranks at Ridgewood Savings Bank, and I became an assistant manager through their management trainee program. But I knew that that wasn't it for me. I wanted more. I wanted to go into investment banking. And so I started looking for jobs at the time, but that was the worst year to be in investment banking. This was 2008. We had the crash, and things just didn't work out that way. But I made a transition again from banking to healthcare. I was called in. This was like the time of monster.com, right? When you apply for jobs through Monster. I don't even know what happened to Monster, if they're still around or not. But I was applying and applying and applying, and NYU Langone called me. I got 2 interviews. I really loved talking to this guy, Rick Olson, who was really nice leader, amazing leader. And he was the director of budgets at the time at at NYU. Langone. And I just got a job as a budget analyst. I was extremely happy with what I was doing in my life. I learned so much. NYU was probably a really great place for me because in the 12 years that I spent at NYU Langone, I met amazing leaders. I met my mentor, Susan DeGironimo Wild, who became my biggest supporter and advocate. And I know you know her, but she was amazing. She was a leader who I learned from how to lead others, how to treat others with kindness, but also to kind of see the strengths in other people, not just criticize their weaknesses or, kind of see what was wrong with that person, but to actually see what was good about that person, what was that strength. And so, I honed into those strengths as a manager, instead of just kind of, digging into the weaknesses. I think it's, that's just also my leadership philosophy. I want to see the best in people, and I want to strengthen those qualities in others. And so that was my career at NYU Langone. I was doing lots of budgets, FP&A, research, operations. I got a chance to see a lot of things at NYU Langone, how a business operates, how an academic medical center functions. And so I built that career through, moving around, seeing different things, learning from Susan, learning from other leaders. I got to hire some amazing people who continue to be there and lead now. And in 2020, I pivoted again my career. But at the same time, Susan left NYU Langone, and I felt like I lost my biggest supporter and my biggest advocate. So I literally just went online and I Googled women in finance. I wanted to meet other women who were out there. Sometimes you kind of put yourself um, in a little section because you don't see outside of your company and you don't meet other people. And that is when I realized the power of networking and meeting others and getting to know others. And for me, that was where I met the Financial Women's Association, because I literally Googled women in finance. FWA came up, other organizations came up. I joined all of them. I went a little rogue. But somehow FWA stuck with me. It made a really great impression because from the beginning, I met some really amazing women who just welcomed me to the organization. I got to go to in-person events. And so in 2020, when I was going through another transition in my life, I was looking for my next opportunity. I got to partner with another amazing woman. Her name is Maria Lane. She became my other biggest advocate, and we created this thing that we called a mutual accountability partnership. And so I talk a lot about this mutual accountability partnerships because I think it's probably a concept that is overlooked nowadays. And I think if you find that person where you're both going through the same thing and you both want to achieve the same goals and the same things, I think it's better to go through that path with another person that could help you instead of doing it alone. And so for me, that mutual accountability partner was Marie Helene, and we both helped each other during that time by setting goals, and we landed our dream jobs during the same time in 2020. So I joined New York City Health and Hospitals in 2020. And I am like really amazed by the power of coincidences that happen in life, which are probably not, random acts, but these are things that you kind of unexpectedly work towards and you build up to those moments in life. But when I met Alex Izaguirre, who became my manager at New York City Health and Hospitals, I was really, I looked up to him so much. I met another amazing leader who I learned a lot from. I learned about the power of storytelling through data. I developed my abilities to learn analytics, learn a lot more about technology. And I'm like, this is full circle because now I can use that IT degree that I never got to use because now I can actually, it makes sense. I'm revisiting my past. So I really enjoyed my time at New York City Health and Hospitals. I moved on to another role as data leader at 32BJ, and now I am the president of the Financial Women's Association. This organization has given so much to me throughout the years that when I became president, I really wanted to focus on rebuilding this organization. And I'll be completely, fully transparent here because we have been impacted so much this year from what's going on in the world, what is going on politically, geographically, everything that's happening in the world. And, you know, the war against DEI has really impacted how we lead in this world as women. And so for me, it's a personal commitment that I want to make it work and I want to rebuild this organization and I want to partner with organizations that truly believe in the power of women leading and also in the advancement of women in the finance and business world. I think we have so much to give. FWA has been around for 70 plus. We're going to be celebrating 70 years next year. So for the fact that we have existed for so long and we continue to be relevant and present in the world of finance and leadership, it's a testament that I don't take lightly. You know, this is something that I really want to do, fully committed to it, and I want to um, make sure that we continue to have this organization going for another 70 years. So this is where I am in my life journey right now. I am fully present, fully committed to making this organization great and truly seeing and telling some stories of the women that have been part of this organization for so long. So I know it was a very long-winded answer, but that's my life story.
No, but you know, there's power in that. I mean, for me, one of the things I always like to, I don't always get a chance to, but what I do like to delve into is asking folks, you know, tell me something about you contextually that will better explain to the audience, you know, why or who you are, right? And for me, there are some tidbits here that I often find that we often tend to gloss over, right? And I find it similarly with this, my push for like mentorship. You know, when I start thinking or talking within these circles of like, hey, let's stop talking about just that. Hey, work hard, get your resume up, and right, like everyone knows those steps, they do, right? But it's really the subtext, right? The things that you know for, that we always tend to leave out because there's variability, right? Not everyone has the same existence, life, parameters, circumstances, etc. But I think that's where it's important, right? And like one thing that has always kind of itched, like it was like a little bit of curiosity when it came with you specifically, of like, you know, what is it that drives you? Like, why? How did you like? What, there has to be something like fundamental in you that makes you exceptional, right? Like
Aw.
it's and for me it was meant. So for those who don't know, right, my understand my awareness of you in this universe came from our days in NYU. And you know, when I came on board, it was right on the back of a reorganization, which essentially a lot of people got let go of, right? And it's not just NYU. A lot of companies do this. It's very common. It is a thing. And obviously there are struggles, right? And unfortunately, with budgets need to get cut and people need to get laid off. Like the work still needs to get done, so people burn out. It happens, right? And throughout my throughout my tenure there, without fail, I think it was like a year or two in, like your team, moved into our department area, and she's like, "Oh, this is Albana." I'm like, "Okay, just another face." But I noticed something. You had this ability, I have to say, because obviously, like one of my claims to fame there was I was I was all about the culture nurturing and right. And for me, it was just because like, hey, let's understand one thing, okay? Like no one's after each other's jobs, right? We need to stop thinking in terms of like, hey, that's not my fault, that's not my job, that's not my. I'm like, that's not the point. I'm here. If you help, if you need help, I'm gonna see if I can, right? And so it was all with the happy hours and all that. And every now and then, look, if you need to vent. And your team, to this day, I have never heard a bad word out of, not once. And the other thing that always kind of I found very intriguing is everyone knows at this point. Let's be adults about this. Most companies, you always have the underperformers. You have lackluster, just punch in, punch out. And if I'm being honest, I was one of them at one point, right? Your team was always like, I always look at your team, I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, where did Albana find these people? Like, and part of it, and since they're not in the room, right? I don't care, right? Like, I'm like, hey, like, seriously, like, honestly, what is it about your team? And oftentimes, like, look, I don't know, Albana. Like, we have no problems with our boss. Albana supports us with whatever we need to get done. And I don't know, like, our team just we jive, right? And you like for the longest time in my brain, it was like you have this all-star team, but then every time I look at you, not that we had like like hours long discussions, but it was this like this aura about you where it's like I'm in the seat, yes, but it's not to be above you. It's like, hey, what do you guys need to get? Like, what do you need in order to perform one way or another? And
Mhm.
it was more than words because usually, like, if you work with enough people for long enough time, you smell the bull crap, right? And I was there what 7 years with that team, like with that department. That level of consistency is hard. It's hard. But then you talk about, hey, like I started off in Kentucky. A year in, I hit valedictorian. I jumped from this department. I like, what is that? Do you understand yourself, or is it?
N- No, I think it's just I think the fact that I came from Albania, from a country where we didn't have the things that I wanted to do. Like, for example, growing up in Albania, I wanted to be a dancer and a performer and a singer and an entertainer. And those opportunities over there were very limited, for example. And my parents were very conservative. They wouldn't, it's a very, um, you know, uh, the country itself doesn't really accept women to be so forward with themselves and outspoken, and so I had to be obedient and I had to listen to everything my parents and society would say, and so I couldn't be myself in that country. So I knew that if I wanted to truly discover myself and be myself, I had to go somewhere else where I had the freedom to choose who and what I wanted to be and become. And so when I came to the United States, when you come from nothing, you kind of know that there is nothing to lose. So now you can only go up. And I came from a mentality where you got to make it work no matter what. I knew that I only had a one-way ticket. I couldn't go back, and like be seen as a failure or, you know, like you couldn't go back. This was it. I when I left my country, I said goodbye to my parents. I didn't know when I was going to see them again. I didn't see them again for 6 years. I didn't see my dad for 6 years. So for me, this was it. Like I had to make it work no matter what. You roll up your sleeves, you do what you have to do to make it work. And so my parents taught me this thing that education, learning will get you to where you need to go. So study hard, study hard. Like this thing was always ingrained in my brain. My dad used to tell me, I went to the university and my physics exam, I got it. The highest note was a 10 in Albania. And he's like, I got tens in university. So you have to study hard and get the same kind of level of commitment that I did. And I was like, that thing kind of like got in my brain. I'm like, I got to study hard. I got to be first. I got to get it, I got to achieve things in my life. And so when you grow up with that kind of mentality, you don't see roadblocks. You only see, yeah, there are roadblocks. I mean, they're there. I went through a lot of hardship, being alone in this country, not knowing people, um, you know, getting no for an answer from a lot of asks. But I didn't see them as a roadblock. I just saw it as, well, I'm going to try harder. I'll just ask again. I'll just find another way. I'll get creative.
It's just another hurdle.
And so, I'm that kind of mentality just makes you just to keep going. And so maybe I'm a little bit milder now, I think, because the more you achieve, the more you're like, okay, well, it's not so hard now. But at the beginning was very difficult. Uh, the first 5 years being in the United States was very difficult because I was straddling between these two cultures, the Albanian culture and the American culture, and you don't know where you belong. You don't know what values to embrace. You're very confused about your life, who you are, where you came from, who you're becoming. And so the East and the West, conflict with each other in terms of values. And so I did go through a transition period where I was trying to figure out myself. And I would say I became fully an individual and secure in myself probably when I hit the age of 27. That's when I was at NYU at the time. That's when I think, I fully felt comfortable in my own skin. As a woman, as a person, and I felt that now I can believe in myself. This is who I am. I'm not going to change my value system. Like, yeah, we learn and we evolve as people, but I felt very comfortable with myself at the age of 27.
I mean, that's spoken like a true A type. But you know,
But Alex, I also want to say something because you did mention that my team was a high performing team and there was a lot of consistency there. And I think there were a couple of things that I look for people when I interview them. One, I look for potential. You don't have to have all the experience in the world because I didn't, but I worked really hard to prove myself and others wrong or right, whichever you want to take it. And so I always looked for potential. I looked for those people who were hungry, who were scrappy, who wanted to do bigger things in life. And so those were the kind of people that I went after when I interviewed, and I could smell that potential, right? Like that's something, that I can see when I talk to people, they have that potential. And then once they have that potential, then you can hone and channel yourself and your coaching towards those potentials so that those strengths can show up everywhere that they go. And the second thing that I am really big on is I approach work with joy and fun. And if we don't have fun when we're working, then work is not going to be it's not going to be good. At the end of the day, you're not going to perform. You're not going to give it your best if this is not something that you enjoy. And it could be a project that you're interested in doing a lot more with. It could be a new skill set that you want to learn and you never had the time or the opportunity. Um, it could be a presentation that you worked so hard, but now you need the opportunity to present so others can see it. So providing those opportunities for people so that they enjoy and they feel rewarded in the work that they do, that is something that I am really a big supporter on. I want to have fun. I want others to have fun when they're working. Sure, yeah, we got to produce and we got to deliver, but have fun while you're doing it.
uh, This is see. This is I don't suspect that I'm gonna get out of you today, but there is so. This is gonna sound very jaded, but a lot of people say those words or some iteration of those words, and when you look behind the curtain, a lot of time it's just that they're just words, right? And for me, there is something I suspect with you is it's like internal. It's almost like a sixth
Yeah.
sense, because for me, it's one thing where you have a couple star players and it is what it is. And so not, when you have a whole team, like if I remember this correctly, one decided to start their own company, and I believe she's doing amazingly well. Another one went off to go work at Google, if I'm not mistaken. She seems to be
Mhm.
doing amazingly well. Another rose to the ranks faster than I thought anyone could at NYU, right? And when I heard his presentation, there was a new level of like, oh my god, for him, right? And just it's just case after case after case. And for me, again, I get it. You want to look for someone who's hungry. What is that like? For me, this is where a lot of people who don't, I guess, who can't read people that well, it's like, what does that even mean? Right? Because you want an interview and they're like, oh, we want someone who's hungry. Okay, like, well, I work really hard. Okay, well, those are words. Those are words. You consistently are able to spot out these people who are, and for me, the way I've seen it was not only hungry, because they would, like, there were times where I see them work long hours, not a single complaint. Everyone else is bitching and moaning and like, oh, this sucks. That your team are like, dude, it is what it is. We're gonna bang this out. No complaints. No complaints. Right. And they're coachable is my suspicion here. Right. Because again, there was like no like, oh, did you hear what Albana said? She said that. I'm like we decided we're gonna do this, right? And Albana said
Right.
that I had a talk with her. I wanted to work on X, Y, and Z, and she's pushing it through for me. Huh? wait, you want more work? Yeah, and she's gonna help us out with it. I was like, dude, what world is this? Like, can I? There's almost an intimidation, if I'm being honest with you, of like you had next level performers, right? And from the other people outside the group, there was a little bit of like some folks had like an intimidation of like, Jesus Christ, she's got like beasts on her team. As much as I love the team dynamics, I don't know if I could like survive in that tank because they just crank out work. It's ridiculous. What is that? Like, what are they? What creatures are these? Right? And again, I know this is like I don't know if I've ever told you that, right? There's like weird. That's why for me, like every time I introduce you to anybody, I'm like, dude, this woman is an enigma, right? And now like that I have a little more context.
I'm glad to hear it. I don't know. I mean, most people don't tell me to my face, you know. I mean, I kind of know that I care about people a lot, and I think that's why it comes to, right? I care about people and I care about their development. So even with the person you're talking about, she went on and has her own company now. She's so successful. Um, and when I hired her, I was like, I could see a lot of potential and I can see what she was good at. She was really good at doing presentations. She was very creative. She would do these things. And I was like, you know what? This is what we're going to channel your energy to do. And so she really shined, when it came to that. Um, and so, and I'm also the kind of person who, if I don't have an opportunity to promote you, I will figure out a way to get you to the team where you can really upskill yourself and you can move up the ladder and do more with yourself. So I understand when people have hit a ceiling at the job that they're doing, and I try my best to get them to the next level and where they need to be. Like this person we're talking about, I could tell she had reached the limit in my team. I found another team that she could be doing a lot more and more creative and do better and get promoted because the other team had that position. And I'm like, go for it. So I will never hold people back. And they knew it. And that's what made that team work, because they knew it, that I had their back. I knew that I was going to work my butt off to get them to the next level, and I was watching out for them. And so they did the same for me. They made me look successful. They made me look good because they knew that when time came, I was going to be there for them. So to me, it's a two-way street, you know. I don't see it as a I'm your boss, do what I say. I see it as we're in this together. If you do well, I do well. If I do well, you do well. Let's just get this done together. I'm a very collaborative person. I never see myself as someone's manager. And it's funny because even nowadays, someone will meet up with me and they'll say, like, oh, she's my boss. You know, she's the one who gave me that opportunity. And I'm like, I worked with you. I don't see myself as your boss. I was your coworker. I worked with you. We helped each other and we made it happen.
That's I find it I find it interesting with all that you've gone through that you don't most people with A-type personalities that we bump into, a lot of them, not all of them, have like almost like chip on their shoulder. There's a little bit of jadedness. There's a little bit of like annoyance at people
Mm,
who are not matching up. There with you, there's grace, right? There's like a and I know you said hey, like my philosophy is I want to have fun, but how's it that you maintain that attitude? Like I know I mean I'm sure there could be days where they're off days, right? But I don't know that
yeah.
I've seen any off
Yeah.
days out of you. It's like I mean that in itself is a puzzle. Like how what is it that is fueling that?
um, I feel like I've been around so many things um, that were not so positive that I understand that I tell people every time somebody complains about something, I say it's a first world problem. It's a first it's like stop complaining about something really stupid because it's like such a small problem compared to what other people in third world countries are going through. There's no electricity. I grew up with no electricity. We only had 2 hours of electricity a day. We had no water. We had to go down the street, collect water from another house that had continuous water somehow. We had to stay in long lines and wait for groceries and bread and eggs. So when you know that half of the world still lives in that kind of poverty, then why are you complaining when you have all these things
Yep.
in your life? So when I think about it, it's about perspective, right? When I am down and I'm feeling, I mean, yeah, I have my off days too. Obviously, everyone does. And I take my time and I feel it and I stay with myself. And then I just move on and I brush it off. And life is beautiful. You just keep going.
You are some hard ass women. I mean, I have so my neighbor, so I'm on the board of my condo, and the president, his wife is Albanian, and
Hmm.
throughout my life I have met a handful of Albanian folks, and I don't like I thought about it because I was talking to her recently, and I was like, I just realized that I think the past like year I just keep bumping into more and more Albanian folks, and she's like, yeah, well, there's a lot of Albanian people. I'm like, yeah, but Amy, for some reason, every time I meet an Albanian woman, you guys keep saying this, that, and third, but you guys are some hard ass women. Like there's no messing with you. You guys are straight gangsters when it comes to like, she's loving, she's carefree, she's joyful, but f around, you will definitely find out, right? There's like a very interesting balance, right? Because it's not just like a hard all the time. It's like
Yeah.
we're joyful people. We enjoy life. We're gonna enjoy all the things until you push that button. I'll unload, but then like immediately it's like back to smiling, and I'm like, this is you guys are like I don't understand this. Like, I do understand to a point, but it's like so far every iteration that I've seen so far is that, and we're like, hey,
Well, yeah. It's about resilience, right? It's about being resilient because um, you know that at the end of the day, you have to get through it. Um, but for me, is I don't know. I just like to approach life with positivity. And sometimes that is
mhm,
misunderstood as being this like la la person or like happy go lucky. And I'm not. I think when people actually get to know me really well deep down, they know that um, I'm a doer. I get things done. I will, work really hard. I will put myself out there on the line, give it 110%. Um, but at the same time, I just don't think it's worth crying over something that, uh, that is not as important. You know, there's a lot of things in life that you could be doing, and just have to like keep
Mhm.
going and keep moving.
Well, that's an amazing attitude, and I was gonna glaze
Yeah.
over this, but I guess it keeps circling back in my brain. The first 5 years here, this is something that was hard, and I do want to delve into it. And for me, I guess it's also because being American born, but obviously within our community, we always tend to see families and folks who do immigrate here, whether temporarily or permanently. And I feel like this is one thing that I think a lot of people resonate with. You know what? Honestly, even those who don't immigrate here, right? And for one, I've always been amazed at those who take the leap of faith in whatever themselves, God, whatever. I don't care whatever it is. Most people have trouble moving to a new neighborhood. You move to a whole new country, and that comes with its own set of circumstances. And for instance, we have family who recently moved stateside with her two girls, and it's hard, right? And you mentioned something in terms of loneliness, right? I know a lot of people feel lonely at times, but there are levels up to this, right?
Hmm.
And feel free to leave it out if you wish, but I am
Oh boy, you're gonna make me cry now.
I'm getting a little.
Because I try not to revisit that time of my life.
We could gloss over it. I mean,
Yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna ask?
for me, I guess it's just a matter of what were the things that you're going through, and what were the things that kind of, whether they're actual steps, mindset, what are the things that got you to eventually get you to claw your way out of that to a point where, like you said, by the time you got into the 27th birthday, you feel like you kind of came into your own.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those were some really interesting formative years for me because I feel like I went through a delayed teenage stage of my life. Because I had my teenage years in my 20s when I was in the United States. Um, and I think first being in a different country, surrounded by a different culture, you you don't always relate to the people that you are surrounding yourself with. Um, I had a hard time relating to the American culture. I didn't understand a lot of the jargon and the jokes and the cultural references because I didn't grow up in this country. And so when you don't understand that, you feel like you don't belong, you don't understand what's going on, you just can't relate to others. And so there was a very difficult time in my life where even though I was surrounded by people, I felt very much alone. And I remember one time being in the car, and I felt so lonely. I felt so lonely and so desperate. And it wasn't anything serious or anything, but through my job, they had a 1-800 line. And somehow I thought to call it. Like, that's how desperate I was. I was like, I just need to call someone. And I pulled up my insurance card. I called the 1-800 number. And, they asked the usual questions. Are you suicidal? All that. And I'm like, no, I just feel very alone. I don't know what to do with myself. And I had this fear of, they call it fear of separation, right? Although I had been in this country for a long time, I still felt like I was separated, right, from my family, from my friends. And I started going to therapy, and that's where I learned cognitive therapy. I learned how to be with myself. And so anytime I would get this, completely transparency here, I would get these panic attacks. I would wake up and I was just feel like, oh my God, what am I doing here? What's my purpose? What am I, I just didn't want to be by myself or with myself alone. I needed another person in the room. That's how, like, these physical reactions would manifest themselves. And that's when I started going to therapy, and I learned, that it's normal. It happens. I think a lot of people go through these, and you just sit with it in the moment, let it happen, feel it all, and somehow it just goes away. And then you just are able to breathe again. And so every time now, I kind of catch myself feeling, when some of these feelings come back, and my initial reaction is, no, can't let it happen, don't let it happen, like, don't go there again. I just remember that, that kind of therapy, and I'm like, nope, just go with the flow, just let it happen, go with it physically and mentally, and then you come on the other side, and you just move on. So yes. I
I mean, for me, there's, I've come to remind myself repeatedly that the worst thing that's happened to you is the worst thing that happened to you, and also hurt people hurt people, and for me, I know I say this a lot to folks, but I think most more times than not, I often find that when I speak on things, it's usually more of a reminder to myself. And the one that I have struggled with, and I think most of those who have really suffered kind of understand of when you're going through it and you take that moment to say, "This too shall pass." I know there are times that I would sit there and be like, it's just the season, it's just the passing.
Yeah.
But in the back of my head, I'm screaming all sorts of expletives, and I'm like, there's like a little psychopath in me trying to claw its way out, and it's hard. And for me, when I think about, you know, I don't know why, but lately it's been something I've been, I guess, a little more sensitive to, the idea of folks being in a situation where they feel left out,
Yeah.
or where they don't belong. I think that's more of, it's a weird thing, right? To have everyone around you, yet you feel like there is no one, right? It's like, it's a weird thing, and I think
Yeah.
it oftentimes happens in New York, right, where we're just like, look, you're surrounded by everyone, and yet somehow you feel like you might as well be in outer space by yourself. Like, it's a weird conundrum to be in, um, and so you like, there's one thing that I had a question about, which I think it just answered by itself. It's, I feel like you don't run from things, you run to things, which is interesting in a lot of ways, because, for instance, a lot of people will reach great heights because they run from poverty, they run from failure. I feel
Right.
like,
Oh, I have failed so many
of
times.
course, right? But like, if you if like,
I know I've done things that I shouldn't have been doing.
but that's part of the journey. It's, for me, it's the interesting thing here is like, I tend to look at the underlying things of what make people tick, and they're like, for instance, I don't care who you date, I don't care who you sleep with, right? For me, it's the intention of like, hey, what are you doing this for? Are you doing this to find validation, or are you trying to, are you looking to really explore and find yourself and like do things on a more holistic basis? And for me, when I look at a lot of people who excel or exceed in their career, one of the things, for some odd reason, my brain turns into, like, what is that motivation? Is it that they're running from this idea of, I can't be poor, I can't be a failure, or is it like
Mhm.
this is a this is a great adventure. Like, I want to go
Yeah.
find that next fun thing.
I think it's a little bit of both for me. It's intrinsic and external, right? Internal and external. So internal is this drive that I can't fail. I have to be good. I have to do my best. I have to show the best in me out there. Or I have to, like, achieve something. I ran the marathon in 2022. I'm not a runner. I just put that as a goal for myself, and I said, I'm just going to do it, and had absolutely no reason or anything, just a goal that I put on myself. And I was like, I just want to do it once in my lifetime, you know? And so I did it. And so there is this innate ability to like achieve goals, right? To like get somewhere, keep moving, keep doing something new, keep learning something different. And then there is this external motivation of, well, who am I doing this for? Who am I impacting? How many people um, will benefit from something I have to share? Um, you know, am I impacting someone's life in a positive way? So if you think about others and doing well for others, then you kind of also autocorrect yourself and the way that you show up in the world, so that you're not you're positively impacting the world, you're not negatively impacting it. And so throughout my life, I've had a little bit of both, right? It's an internal and external forces that push and pull. And sometimes you're more selfish and you want to go after things that you want to do. And sometimes, you're actually sacrificing yourself because you want to do that for the greater good. And I think that's a dance, it goes in cycles, it goes hand in hand. You try to find that balance where both of them are in balance and in equilibrium. But it's something that everyone kind of goes through. It's like the self and the benefit of everyone else.
God, your instincts are crazy. I feel like you're. I feel like you're already like a 9-year-old woman, like some sage sitting on a mountaintop somewhere, and just inhabiting someone else's body. I mean, like I do remember there was I don't know if it's a movement or what, but someone mentioned that one of the fallacies that we have, and I think I'm 90% sure this was geared towards like women specifically, is that you were fed this fallacy that you can have everything, where with a more realistic approach is yes, you can have everything, just not all at once, right?
Hmm.
And I took a moment to think about that. At first, I was like, "The hell are you talking about?" And then I was like, "Not all at once." And I think now that I'm at the age where I'm at, and I see the struggles for some of my friends, where career came first, or at the time, I don't care which of the variables they are, whether it's generational or cultural or whatever. But at the time, marriage and kids and all that just was not. And I was one of
Yeah.
them, honestly, right? Like I don't care to get married per se. I don't really care to have kids. I love children, but if I don't have them, it's not the end of the world. And now we're in a situation where a lot of my friends who are unable to have children, for instance,
Hmm.
are kind of stuck there saying, "Damn, like I wish I would have known beforehand." Like on the vice versa, you hear every other parent be like, "Look, I love my kids. Let me get this straight. Let me get this straight. I do love my children. However, dot dot dot. Right?" And
Yeah.
it's hard because it's hard to be a present parent and be who you want to be in your career, professional career, and in your personal life. As a wife, as a friend, as a mentor, as a leader, as a like all of these things, dude. You jump not only from different career trajectories to different industries to different roles to different organizations. On top of that, you are a musician, and I've seen some clips. That I'm just leaving it at that, right? You're doing all of these things, right? And looking at my wife, for instance, and I come from for a period of time. We were a single mom, right? And I had my grandmother to help, right? And like for me, I guess that's a very I have a very soft spot in my heart for women in general, who especially who are being there present for the children, because having a career, like anyone who's raised a kid and thinks like, well, that's shut up. Like if you like if you don't want to really embrace
Hard.
that, how is it that you navigate that?
Yeah. Yeah. What's so interesting? When I first got pregnant, and Susan was my manager, I was having this conversation with Susan, and I said, "Well, I know I got pregnant, but I also want to get promoted very soon." And so Susan was like, "Well, you can have," she was actually the one who said, "You can have everything, just not at the same time." And so Susan and I really planned my career promotions with my pregnancies. Both times that I got pregnant, I got promoted first and then I got pregnant. So it's so sad to say,
Mm-hmm.
right? But as a woman, I felt that I had to plan my pregnancies around my career and my promotions and all of that. And I hope that's not the case, hopefully, for my kids, my daughter, and other kids, other women, who are going to grow up in the next, having kids in the next 10, 20 years. And I think that's why I also work so hard for women rights and women in leadership, so that we can change that narrative, because you should be able to have a career and children at the same time. And I was having this exact conversation with a friend of mine the other day, because she said, oh, she's in the healthcare profession. And she said, I see a lot of women doctors and nurses who are not getting married. And they say they don't want to have children because they want to have a career and they don't want to compromise. And I said, I can, I can see that. I can see that. I love my children and I'm very lucky to have two beautiful children and have a career, but not everyone can do that. And the reason I tell everyone, the reason I was able to have it all is because I have a lot of help. I have a lot of help. And every woman who's out there who's having an amazing career, I always ask, do you have children? And in most cases, they don't. And if they do, they have that career because they have the help. I had a lot of help from my parents, who are amazing. They help both my sister and I raise our children so we can go to work and we can have a life and we can have a career and we can have the things that we wanted to accomplish in our lives. And I am very lucky to have also a very supportive husband who, tries as much as he can to pitch in and help with the children and help with housework and help me with my music. He's a true partner in love and in life, and everything that we do a lot of things together. And so I think you can't do it alone. Unfortunately, I still think you can have it all, but you can't have it all alone. You need help.
That is something that I've been ruminating on quite often these days. I mean, it was definitely uh, I would say around the time I got married, maybe sometime before that. I think it's unfortunate how culture. I feel like it's. I don't know where it started from or how. Like I remember seeing stuff about it. I think at some point, but I feel it's unfortunate that we've gotten to a point where I think it's reversing. But it's like, hey, I did it myself. Bravo, buddy. But I think that was a lot of my parents' generation, um, where this idea of like you're gonna go out, raise a family, do this, do that, da 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 da. I'm like, whatever happened to the old village lifestyle where you had multi generational families and we had a village
Yeah.
that right. Like I grew up where it wasn't uncommon for like the neighborhood aunties or uncles to snap you upside the head just because you did something stupid because your parents weren't there. And I'm like, I'm gonna tell my dad. Go tell your dad, and I'll explain to him what happened, and you'll probably smack you up again, right? That is not to say you should go beat your kids. I'm just saying that was the times, right? But there was an essence of like if one of the parents had to work late and they both of them had to work, because a lot of my parents' generation, they were immigrants. They didn't have. I mean, some of them did, but a lot of them didn't have office jobs. You had to run a business. You had to try to put food on the
Mhm.
table one way or another. You didn't have time, and sometimes, like I still remember, their childhood friends. Well, people we grew up with. I still distinctly remember. I'm like, dude, I'm pretty sure like you two breastfed from the same auntie. Like that's your mom, and then you had another kid. Like I'm pretty sure you fed from like you got the same boob, and that's not your mom, right? Or like like but again, we've gotten to the point where like it's like almost this weird expectation of like you get married, you have kids, raise them on your own, figure out your career. I'm like, and when I talk about the elders, some of them honestly they want nothing to do with child raising, but the other side they make every possible excuse, and then the kids feel bad. I'm like, look, if the parents want to be part of the family, like not part of the family, but part of the time with the grandkids, stop making this like a whole back and forth. Look, if they want to spend time, let them spend time. And it just so happens it's babysitting. Work it out however you need to. But
Absolutely.
I think that's lost a little bit. No.
But that's exactly, I mean, not, see, this is the thing. I love that. And if the grandparents want to be part of their grandkids' life, that's amazing. I mean, like I said, I've been very lucky that my parents just love spending time with their grandchildren, love to help as much as they can. And I welcome that. It's definitely appreciated. But not everyone has that opportunity. And so that's why, I actually follow this nonprofit organization, Moms First. Reshma Sawyani, she's really amazing. She's doing a lot for affordability in childcare and giving women that help that they need so they can continue to be part of the workforce. And I think that is exactly what is missing in this country. Childcare is so expensive. If I didn't have help for my parents, I probably would have to either quit my job and take care of my kids or just work to pay the daycare and children. So I really love the fact that New York did the 3K for children. That was a big help for parents. But I think there needs to be a lot more, because I think children understand so much when their parents are both working and also when mom is working. And it's an example that we give to them, because when they see both parents working, they also are healthier, more motivated, more, they want to also do more as kids. You're raising healthy kids when both parents are working. So I think that equality has to be there.
I take it one step further. I've been ruminating on this because for me, I always try to play devil's advocate on both ends of that argument. And for me, I understand from a corporate standpoint of like, hey, we lose an employee for X amount of time. For instance, for if you give like maternity, paternity leave, things of that nature. And there's something that stuck with me recently because there's a push to make childcare affordable, which because I'm on the front end of that, I understand that from a very intimate level. Um, but the other question was raised by a child psychologist, and he's like, rather than providing just affordable childcare, why not give the option for the mother to decide which way they want to go? Would you prefer, say, a 1 year maternity leave like some other countries do, or would you prefer to have 3 months and then you have affordable childcare, or maybe some kind of semblance of both? Like for me, it's if you
Yeah.
only choose one. And I know that like for me the longest time because my default brain was always like, of course, affordable childcare, so she could go back to work. She's like, why not give them the option of like, hey, would you rather spend, and not maybe not a choice either or, but like maybe some kind of in between, of like, look, if you, maybe we'll have 1 year maternity leave. You don't want to take it, you want to come back to work, be my guest. We're more than happy to have you back sooner. But
Yeah.
like one of my coworkers, she's technically she is, well, not technically, she is a Canadian citizen, and she's like, yeah, we're due, and she should actually come back soon. But she's like, yeah, I'm gone for like a year. I'm like, huh? Like, yeah, a year. I'm like, is it like the
Yeah.
whole of your spot? She's like, no, you get a full year. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And I was like, as someone who like by then I'm like, I already got my two babies. I'm like, dude, I don't, I know the company's not gonna push you to like come back and they want you to enjoy your maternity, but like, dude, even if you get some kind of weird urge to go back to work, like, dude, I'm telling you, spend the time with the kid, enjoy it. But it's
Yeah.
crazy that we have this like my wife's a teacher, and
Hmm.
I still get flack for this. It's like, hey, have the kids, like to your point, time you're having your children in your state. The cutoff for the grades is different than New Jersey and everywhere else in the country. My kids
Hmm.
are both born at the end of the year, and so now it's like if I move, that means I have to pay for additional years of childcare, which is, for those who don't understand these costs, we're looking at least 25,000 to 30,000 plus just to have someone watch our children, which it's a great. I'm not, to be clear, we're not demeaning the people who do this work because I think it's absolutely incredible and really hard work if you're doing it right. But it's still 30,000. It's someone's salary I'm paying, right? Well, not a high
Yep.
salary, but still, right? It's tough, right? And now
Yeah.
that every time we're like, hey, like, do we want to have another kid? Well, let's see. We count 9 months back. We time it for the summer vacations because at the time they had just implement. This is for me. I thought this was absurd. You're teachers. You work for the Department of Education. Your maternity leave was non-existent until recently, and now it's 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You understand children and education, and your maternity leave policies. And I'm probably gonna get flack for this
Right.
from folks, but I don't care. How do you have 6 weeks for maternity leave? And for, like, maybe I'm crazy, but like for me,
Yeah.
again, optionality, but something better. Like we can do better, and I understand. I get it. You like, for instance, Albana. I'm sorry, you took maternity leave, and they said, hey, come back in a year. And I was a member of uh, your team was stellar. They're gonna figure it out like everything else does. But there's a small part of me. I'm like, damn, that's an all-star member of this squad that is just gonna be gone for a year. I understand that, but still, I think that when they come back, there's less stress. There's less, right? And maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I will tell you what I did with my maternity leave. And that is just me speaking from my personal experience. When I had my first child, I was on maternity leave for 6 weeks. And then I came back part time for the next 10 weeks. And I was, like I said, very fortunate because I worked it out with Susan. Instead of taking 3 months off, so 12 weeks, I said, you know what? I feel like I want to come back because I was getting cabin fever at home. It was winter. I just didn't want to be home anymore. But I still wanted that flexibility and I wanted to work part time. So I arranged with Susan that. And I don't know if that's against HR policy, but, but they approved it. So it's gone. Sorry. But that was probably a really big help for me transitioning back into the workforce and also adjusting to being a new mom and being in the workforce at the same time. The second time I took the full 12 weeks. It was summer. I really wanted to enjoy being with also the second time it's easier, you feel a lot more comfortable, and I felt like I really wanted to enjoy my time with my daughter and be there for her, and I took that 12 weeks. At the end of the day, I don't think there is like one thing that works for everyone the same way. I think women want to have a choice and they want to have flexibility. And I think that's what's missing, right? That flexibility. It doesn't matter if you give me 1 year, 6 months, whatever. I want to have a choice when to come back and how much time I can ask for, because every woman is different. Some women need 3 weeks, not 3 weeks. That's some women need like 12 weeks, or some women need more, and some women need less. Like I said, I've had both different, kind of experiences, and to me, having that flexibility and having a choice in how you manage your body, your maternity leave, your bonding with your child, um, I think that's very important. And what's so funny is that women don't make it easier for other women. When I went to HR, when I had my first child, and I went to HR and I was asking for what are the rules and how much time I can take off, the woman in HR said to me, "You probably won't come back. This is your first child. You probably want to stay home with your kid." And to me, it sparked fear, because I'm like, is it that you don't want me back? Or do you really think that I'm not gonna want to come back? And so we can't do that. We can't talk to women like that. Having a child is a whole different life-changing event in itself for a woman. But if you put that kind of pressure, that you're making it even harder. So give women a choice and flexibility.
It is a sensitive subject for lots of reasons. And on the one hand, there is, again, so like if I were devil's advocate from like a cold-hearted, pragmatic corporate lens, it's like, okay, we lose productivity, we're on the hook to pay. Okay, fine, I get it. There's a loss somewhere, right? But that, like,
Hmm.
what I'm saying here is there should be discussions and not, well, I look, big corporates, I understand you also have thousands of employees and all that jazz, but for me, it's anytime there are
Yeah.
blanket generalizations, that's
Yeah.
one thing for like for expediency.
It's a case by
Right.
case.
And
Exactly.
anytime, whether in this or anything else, like when you are leaning into policy, and I understand why, but still, if you are really harping in on that based off of general blanket stuff, it's lazy, right? And so for me, like to your point, the ability for you to talk with Susan and work out something creative, right? Of like, hey, this is what works for me. And I understand the HR perspective because throughout my career, there have been a lot of cases where like, hey, it turns out I'm going to be back I expect to be back in 2 months, in 3 months, and then you get a message like, oh, okay, they're delaying, they can use their long-term disability, whatever it is they got to do, they're extending. Okay, fine. But then I have met, for me at the time, like, dude, you're crazy. I've seen 3 weeks and they're back in work, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And she's like, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
right there's variability here.
Yeah.
And I think one of the unfortunate things here is also is there have also been cases where like, hey, I got pregnant during my maternity, I'm gonna go find a new job. Why? Because sometimes it's literally just because they may feel very uncomfortable about this process. Now
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not appreciated. What? Just because I got pregnant and I had a child and I started a family. And when I hear those arguments, I get a little. It hurts. Like I feel for them because it's one thing to understand the corporate mind. Like it's business. I get it. There's parts of that, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm at that point now. Like is because Koreans have a really big problem with this in Korea too. It's when you
Mm-hmm.
make someone feel like they need to be punished for having a child. For me, that
Right.
becomes like not thankfully I don't think I've heard it where they outwardly being like a POS about
Mm-hmm.
this, right? But it's like
Yeah.
you make me
Yeah.
you essentially made me feel like I'm the bad person for wanting a family. And I'm like that's unfortunate. That you shouldn't have that.
Right.
Right. And again, for me, it's
Exactly.
if you didn't have that kind of support, I still suspect that someone with your personality would still find the path.
Creative ways.
Yeah. But it's like there might like with your personality, I think there's still you're gonna find a way forward. Secondly, I don't know that really that it would take away from that personality that you have of like, look, shit happens, and I'm still gonna roll with the punches. I'm still going to, right? I'm gonna be
Yeah.
me, but
Yeah.
on the other side, like for me, there's a little part of like, even in this hypothetical scenario, there's a little bit of like sadness of like if that were to this non-existent scenario, if it did happen, I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
why would you do that to that? Like, I don't know. Sorry, that's weird.
No, I mean, and unfortunately, those are the realities that women have to kind of face. And hopefully the work that we're doing, that you're actually talking about it, it will make people start thinking about it a lot more and paying more attention to these issues. And like I said, hopefully we can change things for the better for the next generation. Like I'm worried about my daughter
Mhm.
and my son because I'm worried about boys too. I'm not worried just about
Mhm.
girls.
See,
So, but that's a whole other
yeah,
topic.
Jesus, we're already past an hour, and like, and for me, I'm like screaming. My brain is screaming right now because I legitimately want to spend at least like half of this talking about FW because the things that are going on there. And for instance, for me, there's a little theme of like carrying the torch, right? So it's one thing
Yeah.
for you to be the person who built this amazing culture like you did in NYU and building this amazing team. But it's another for like had an early discussion with someone who truly believes in training your successor, right? So shout out to
Mhm.
Dr. Anevsky over there. But like I feel like you embody that. And so, damn it, this is gonna have to be another podcast, isn't it? There's just I I I cannot stop, fam. I okay, so
That's
I'm
funny.
gonna have to have you
Yeah.
on again.
We'll do a follow-up.
Absolutely.
Part 2.
Part two, part 12 for geez. I think I might have to make you like a resident guest at this point. But for now.
I I can change my different shirt colors, so the next time I'll come with a different color. Because I love colors, you can see.
There was a time that I actually legit had to do that, like when I filmed content all in one day, switch shirts, jump in, do another one to another shirt, and like that's the same. Like, did you do something to market the previous? I'm like, yeah. He goes, it's still on your cheek. I'm like, damn it. but, but for now,
Yes.
if people need to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Well, You can always find me at FWA. We host a lot of FWA Connect sessions where I actually get to meet members and prospective members. And you can just go to fwa.org, sign up for those sessions. They're free, they're available to everyone. And, I can give out my email. It's albana@teca.net. I'm always looking to connect with people. I find it energizing and also mesmerizing to hear people's stories. And I just think it's fascinating, to learn about people and what they do and how they do it and why they do things that they do in their lives. So always looking to connect.
Well, I'll leave links and information in the descriptions. But Albana, I thank you so much. This is one podcast that I've been looking forward to for like
Thank
probably
you.
6 months to a year at least. It's been on the back of my mind. I don't think you understand. Like this
Oh my
is something that's been on
God.
my bucket list for a while.
Thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate it.
But thank you for your time, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.